That's right, I'm 50. I've been 50 for 2 days now. So far, it's very much like 49. Man, I wish I had some wisdom to impart. I'm just not even a fraction of as articulate as I feel like I should be at 50. 50. That's probably more than twice the average age of my audience here on YouTube. Why do you young people watch me? I'm I'm just, I find myself more and more sort of in the father figure category, and I'm so totally inappropriate for that. It's not even funny. Inside, I'm still just a young thing looking at the future. It's just that the future looks a lot bigger and closer than it used to. What wisdom can I impart from a half century of life? I do know one thing. I thought I could project myself into the future and predict, what I would be like or what other people would be like, or just basically predict how my feelings as a teenager and a young adult would be different when I got older, or how I would not let them become different, how I would not be like the adults that I saw. And in a lot of ways, I think I'm not like the adults that I saw when I was a kid. Here's my dad when he was about 50 years old. And when I look at him now, he just seems, on the one hand, he looks younger than me because he grew up on a less processed, more healthy diet, frankly. I grew up on junk food, and I have not taken care of myself, and I think I look a lot older than him in a way. But in another way, he's so much more of an adult than I think I will ever be there. I will always be a bit of a kid. And I think that's true of more and more people in our culture. I, I don't really see it as an infantilization of people, so much as a prolongation of the idea that we can change and that life has new things to offer and that it isn't just a grind, and even when people find themselves in a grind, they just have this perspective that in the old days you didn't. You grew up, you became an adult, you did what was expected of you as an adult, and if your life came apart at the seams because you really couldn't handle what you thought was expected of you, then it was this gigantic tragedy. But now it's just part of on the one hand, part of the journey, everyone looking for their bliss, the pursuit of happiness. And on the other hand, it's part of the economy, since people's lives falling apart and getting patched back together, or being replaced by some new kind of life is it just a huge chunk of the economy that just didn't exist in the past. Wow, I started out this vlog thinking I was going to do another 45-second one, but now I'm just talking about stuff. The one thing I can tell you youngsters, you real youngsters, that cannot be communicated to the young, but maybe it's worth mentioning to some young people, I don't know. No matter how smart you are, and no matter how much adult wisdom you learn and accept at a young age, the sheer volume of years creates a kind of perspective that you can't. It's not the same thing as wisdom. It isn't wisdom. Especially here in the West, in Western cultures, we think of time as progressive. The world changes with time, and the world becomes a different place, and we want to make it a better place. Though most of us, in our heart of hearts, are always afraid that the future is going to be much, much worse, and that we're all degrading. And every single generation seems to think that things were better in the past, better when they were kids, or better before they were born, which of course literally can't be true. But there comes a point where you just begin to realize that it's like the primitive people said. No matter how progressive our society is, no matter how much it changes, and it changes immensely, but that old cliche is true. The more things change, the more they stay the same. And as I have gotten older, I've seen how true that is. That people, when I was a kid, they used to. I turned 18 the year of the American bicentennial, 1776 to 1976. And there was much talk of how young a nation the United States was, as opposed to the old civilizations of China and the older civilization of Europe and all this kind of stuff. And we were a young, brash people, and we had no sense of history and all this kind of stuff. But what I have seen as the years go by is that however much a culture may impart a long view to its citizens, that the people may feel like they have a relationship to the past, and have learned something from the past that some other culture may not have learned. In practical fact, any given culture, I think, is really only as old as its mean or median, as the mean or median age of its citizens. And there are certain things that no matter how old a culture gets, young people will always go through again, and nobody old can tell them not to. And it would be wrong to tell them not to, because that's what it is. It's an endlessly recurring cycle of youth to age. And if you happen to be out of sync with someone else's experience, that doesn't mean that you should impose your experience from where you are onto them. Or obviously, sometimes you have to tell dopes not to be dopes. Sometimes you have to tell snotty know-it-all teenagers not to drive drunk. But at the same time, it's just a cycle. In primitive cultures, I once was told a long time ago, they would have these rituals where the kids would stay in a kid's world and be cared for by the parents or whatever, and then they would have their coming of age ceremony, whatever that would be, and they would ceremoniously become adults. But once they were out of the kids' world, they didn't have to endlessly listen to the same growing up stuff, because they were now adults. And so then they had their adult experience, whatever the hell that was, but it wasn't the same as the kids' experience, and they knew it. And this very vlog is recurring now, because this was my first little point there, is that in our culture, the adolescent experience of searching for newness and fresh experience and always feeling like you can grow and change is getting longer and longer. But I think one of the reasons for that is that you're marinated in a culture aimed at the young, aimed at the young for maybe good reasons, like we have to make the young better than we were when we were young so that the world will get better, and also aimed at the young for not so good reasons, like the young are stupid and easy to trick, and you can get them to buy stuff and they can manipulate their parents into paying for it, and et cetera, et cetera. Oh, you know what? I'm gonna let this go. Not let this get as long as some of my other vlogs, because I really didn't. I just started out thinking I was going to do a little short video with a hilarious photo of me as a baby, because even as a baby I was frowning. It's just that was going to be my insight.